Nowadays, there are many ways to put yourself out there if you're single. You can go to the old school way by befriending people at your school, college, or work to find your soulmate, or you can do what a lot of other people are doing, which is to put their profiles on dating sites like Tinder, Bumble, Coffee Meets Bagel, and others. In a more traditional sense though, there would be arranged marriage that your parents would do for you to pick your so-called soulmate, where they would go and find people to marry you off to. In China, this is a bit more official, where there are actually organizations that you go to that pairs your sons and your daughters with another. You would go inside the organization and they would ask you what age range you're looking for in a partner, their profession, any deal breakers, and all of that sort. Finding a soulmate can be really hard, even though we have a lot of ways. But behind this matchmaking that we have been doing for centuries, there is a darker side to it that nobody really talks about, at least here where we're at. It's a culture that believes nobody should be alone, both when you're alive and when you're dead. A practice that's been around for 3,000 years, marrying unmarried dead people so they are not single in the afterlife. This is the eerie story of ghost weddings that had been practiced in China for over 3,000 years, and how it even goes further to a man being charged with murder after he killed 2 women with mental disabilities because he wanted to sell their corpse to be used in a ghost wedding. Content warning. This video includes description of violence, murder, death, rituals, and other supernatural content. Listener discretion is advised, as some stories may be unsettling or sensitive to certain audiences. Turn down the lights, snuggle up tight, and get ready for another Tag Tale. What happens when the line between fact and folklore blurs? Welcome to Tag Tales, where urban legends meet true crime and myth aren't always just stories. My name is Afrina, your host for the episode.
And my name is Diski.
And now, there are a lot of inspirations and conversations out there about our dream weddings, shotgun weddings, destination weddings, and the such. But have you ever thought about a dream wedding?
Yeah, of course.
How does it look like?
It's more of like Disney kind of way,
Disney weddings.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I just want a simple, small, yet intimate wedding.
Really?
And then we take that money that we save and splurge it on honeymoon.
Wow.
I like
That's
that.
a really good idea, actually.
Yeah. Small weddings and then 2 months in Europe. Isn't that fun?
Wow, yeah. That's a really good idea.
But after researching about ghost weddings, I feel like any wedding that we have is gonna be much better than what I'm gonna tell you about. So ghost marriages is a tradition that dates back to the first Chinese dynasty, making it at least 2,200 years old, while some people even say it's actually older. It's like about 3,000 years. The practice of ghost marriage has actually been banned in China since 1949, and the sale of corpse banned by the government from 2006. Which is, I think, still pretty recent. And until today, though, even though it has been banned, reports of it still being practiced in villages in China, it still exists. But before we go to any stories, I'm gonna tell you what ghost marriages are and how they really work. So traditional Chinese beliefs say that when a person dies, their being, their soul, continues into the afterlife. So this realm is thought to mirror the living world. It looks similar to our own world, where money, housing, and marriage exist. So it looks the same. And while material wealth can be sent to the deceased through burning of paper money and paper houses and other items, we can send it to the ones who have died. The arranging of a marriage for the deceased is a much more intricate process. Although some people argue that this tradition is still being done, not really because you want to satisfy the needs of the dead, but because the living feel a bit anxious that their loved ones died and they're still single. But some Chinese people of the older generation still believe that if people die without fulfilling their wishes, let's say if someone dies but before they died they wanted to get married and then they didn't get to get married, they would come back to haunt the living and not be at peace. So those are some reasons why ghost marriages even exist. And another factor that could have been why ghost marriages are still practiced in China is because of its ancient patriarchal system, which sees wedlock as a vital for continuing the family line. But since it's a ghost wedding, I wonder how it's gonna continue any bloodline, because they won't have any children. Now, there are typically two types of ghost marriages in the rural regions of China that's still being practiced. One of them could be considered wholesome if you watch it in like a romance movie. So it involves couples who died before they were engaged or after being engaged, and they passed away unexpectedly with their parents. Out of love and longing for their sons and daughters, they would organize a wedding ceremony and bury them together. But the second type of ghost weddings is actually the eerier part. It involves individuals who were not ever engaged or even did not know each other beforehand, and then they are matched together. So these are dead people that are matched through a wedding. In 2009, 1 year after Li Chaolong died of leukemia in China's central Henan province, his mother had found him a bride. Her name is Li Xiu-yung from the same village, who was hours away from dying from kidney failure. So mind you, she was still alive at this point. But she was about to be engaged to a man that has been dead for a year. Sadly though, the bride passed away shortly after, and according to the man's friend, who is the one who shared this story to the news, the two families hugged and they cried and they wept in the funeral. They were grieving for their sons and daughters, but also celebrating because they were having a wedding. So it's a bit of a weird, tricky situation. The day after, a funeral turned wedding was held, and the couple, who never actually met when they were alive, were buried together at the man's family grave. Now, another tricky situation about this whole tradition is the marriage was really important and significant to the family because Li, the guy, actually wasn't buried in his family grave. His grandmother told his mother that he was not allowed to be buried in the family grave, because as the tradition goes, passing away without continuing the family line made him unworthy to rest alongside his ancestors. So he needed to get married first, and then he was allowed to be buried in the family grave, which is a bit... I feel sad for him that 1 whole year that he wasn't buried. And for the bride's parents, if a ghost marriage hadn't been arranged for their daughter, as a female, she would have never been allowed to have been formally buried anywhere.
Anywhere? Then what will happen to her?
She would be cremated. She would never be allowed to be buried.
Wow.
And that is the reality of having to go through a ghost wedding. But for those going through a matchmaker to find a bride for their deceased son, or vice versa, it's not so simple because they have to go through some requirements. For example, in the traditional ghost marriage concept, the bride's family would ask the groom's family for a heavy price and dowry. So money. Also, these people's ages and profession and family background still plays a part here. Sometimes they don't want the bride to be too old or too young, and vice versa. But it's just so weird because they've passed away. So does it really matter, right? If she was young when she died or whatever. And after their match, they will have a wedding ceremony which involves the funeral plaque for the groom and the bride, and then there's a wedding banquet. Just like Lee's story, I also found a prayer that they say for the afterlife weddings, and honestly, it's just very interesting, so I want to share it with you guys. So it goes like this. So and so, I hereby inform you, you died at a young age and thus did not realize the great principle of marriage. You sleep alone in the dark world and lack the intimacy of a man and a woman. Just as living people long for companionship, the dead fear loneliness as well. Unexpectedly, so-and-so's family had a daughter who just passed away like an autumn leaf. We sent a betrothal for you so your souls might meet. We selected this auspicious day for the rite of your union. We also set out an offering next to your shrine table, furnished with all kinds of food. Please send your spirit down to the banquet and eat the meal. So the speech is basically saying to the spirits, hey, you're gonna get married now, you won't be lonely anymore, and you can come down and party and eat the food that we prepared. What a tradition, right? It's quite a unique tradition. And some researchers come up with an average value for the bones for the brides, especially if they are young. So if they're young, it can go from 30,000 to 50,000 yuan and even 100,000 yuan. Now 50,000 yuan is 30,000 ringgit. And 100,000 yuan is about 60,000 ringgit. It's so expensive. And the price is really, really high due to a number of reasons. One being that China is currently struggling with a gender imbalance problem. How families in China, they prefer men over women, like sons over daughters. So because of this, it created a lot of men population. So in 2017, there were 32.66 million more males than females. And because back then, remember they had like a one-child policy? So everyone was just trying to have a boy. So as a result of this, in provinces like Shanxi, a rural village in China where coal mining is the main industry, it claimed a lot of young men's lives, thousands every single year, because of coal mining. It is extremely difficult for the parents to find their sons a ghost bride. So this is when female corpses become quite a hot commodity.
Oh, I got goosebumps.
It's quite scary. And an employee that worked in that area's hospital, she or he quoted in Chinese media saying that once the news of a young girl is dying in the hospital spreads, tens of families who had lost their sons would rush to the hospital and they would have an auction war.
Oh my god.
So the highest family who bids will win the corpse or the young girl. And note this, the girl is still alive.
Huh? Really?
The girls would
I thought
be
it's
alive.
already like only the corpse.
She's in the process of dying.
Oh my god.
It's crazy. So once they decide who the winning family is, who pays the most, the girl's family would promise to deliver her body to the winning parents once she's passed away.
Wouldn't be like human nature to achieve this. Wouldn't be like there are some people who purposely they didn't do any procedure or like help the patient when they have chances to be healthy anymore, but they just like, no, we cannot do anything, just to give this.
Yeah, just to get the money.
Yeah, just to get the money and just to get a fresh corpse for the ritual. Do you think like there is some kind of motivation?
For the hospital workers, I haven't seen, but it could be something.
It could happen.
It could happen, but there are cases that I'm going to tell you soon that is like this, just for the money. And since the sale of corpses has been banned, right, since 2006, it has been banned, but it doesn't stop people from trying to take advantage of the situation. So these people trying to make money and selling bride corpses, they would go to graves and they would steal. They would steal the young girls' bones and making a business out of it, essentially. In 2015, there were reports that 14 female corpses were stolen in that particular village. It's insane. But for those of the people who don't want to go through the strenuous activity of robbing a grave, they do something else. They murder. On April 13, 2016, in the northwestern Chinese province of Shanxi, a traffic policeman had been on the job when he stopped a van in the road and then found that he was transporting a body of a woman. She was a disabled woman named An, and she had been murdered by a man called Ma Chonghua. He had apparently gone to her family home, and because her parents were worried that she wouldn't be able to get married because she was disabled, he came and he pretended to be a matchmaker, and he said, "Hey, don't worry, I'll find someone who your daughter can marry." And the parents believed him, and so Ma took the girl out of the house. But instead of doing that, he took her and he killed her. He drugged her and she died of an overdose. And then he hired a guy named Yang who was caught in the van. He was the one transporting her body to be sold for around 25,000 ringgit. But he wasn't able to sell because he was caught by the police, right? But this wasn't his first rendezvous. 3 months previously from he got caught, he actually did successfully sell a body. So he, Ma, had abducted 45-year-old Lui Sasya the same way, posing as a matchmaker, going to her house and saying, "Hey, I'll marry your daughter off." And because she's disabled, her parents were really worried that she wouldn't find anybody, and she's quite old. So he took her, he murdered her, and then he drugged her. But he was able to sell her bones and get the money, which we would never have actually found out about if the second woman didn't happen. He hired the same guy to transport her body in his van from Gansu to Yulin, which is a neighboring province, and they met a resident named Chiu who acted as an agent to sell the corpse. He went around, he introduced the killer, Ma, to potential buyers of Liu's corpse for the ghost wedding, and I'm not sure if the families who were looking to buy it knew how he found the body, if he killed someone, if he robbed. I don't know if the families knew, but he was able to sell her corpse and he received 21,000 ringgit. And Chiu, the agent that was introducing him to all the families, he received 3,000 ringgit. But because he got caught when he was trying to do it the second time, the police investigated his case, found a connection with the first time he did it, and in August 2016 they announced that Ma, with the other two suspects, the agent and the driver, they were prosecuted for abducting and trafficking women, international homicide, and concealing murder. And in 2019 he was sentenced to death. But there are so many cases regarding ghost weddings, just like this one, that I think would be too long if I tried to share everything. But I will share you a bit of the ghost weddings that happens throughout the world. In 2019, the ashes of Fang Yang, a woman in Shandong province in eastern China, it was used in such a ceremony after she was tortured to death by her in-laws. So the son died and the in-law family tortures her to death so that they can bury them together.
Oh my god, that's so horrible.
It's really bad.
But they're already married, so it doesn't really matter, right?
It does not, but they didn't want him to be alone. I don't know if sometimes grief takes over or is it because they're just insane, but it does happen. Another case in 2021, a funeral home staff in Shandong stole the ashes of a female internet celebrity and then sold them to a local family for ghost marriage. And in December 2023, a man in Thailand held a ghost marriage with his girlfriend who had died of leukemia. The bride was represented by a picture of her and a mannequin dressed in traditional Thai wedding attire, and he expressed his commitment to their love in the hopes of comforting her spirit. So she died before they got married, so he said, "I'ma just get married anyway."
That was like 2 years ago for a reason.
I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about it. Maybe he's like thinking it's romantic or something, that he's getting married to his girlfriend who passed away. And another one just last year in May, there was even one case of a ghost marriage in Malaysia, where a Malaysian Chinese couple who died in a car accident had a ghost marriage ceremony arranged by their families, ensuring the couple could reunite as husband and wife in the afterlife. This is more innocent than murder or robbing corpses, but it's still, I don't know how to feel about it. So what do you think? Do you believe in ghost weddings?
I've heard about it before, but in Indonesia there's this black magic. So there are some cases that I heard about of a living person, usually a woman, getting tied in the marriage situation with gosh, but not gosh like someone who passed away, but the purpose is to make this person will not be able to marry a real human.
Why?
Revenge, jealousy, and there are a lot of motives like this.
Oh wow.
So like, can you imagine that you are married to an entity that is very scary? Usually it's like pocong and gosh like that.
But would the girl know that this is being done?
They don't know.
They don't
But
know?
they will feel it. They will feel like when they're sleeping, they will feel heavy or like their body feeling aching or something.
Oh, and when they try to get married, then what happens? They just can't?
They can't. Their relationship, when they try to have a relationship with people, it will be like messed up or something. They will be like single forever. Because like in another life, they're already married.
Oh yeah, that's so mean.
And usually the entity, the ghost, will always follow them everywhere.
That's wild.
Yeah,
I hope nobody did that to me or
me
you.
too. It's so fucking scary.
Mm. And would you be open, or would you be okay if your parents married you off? If you've passed away, or your boyfriend passed away, then would you marry them?
I don't think my parents would ever do that, because like in our religion we don't have anything like that. And like in my knowledge, I don't have much knowledge about this, but in my religion, marrying someone who has never married before in their life as a human, it's actually going to be hard for them to move forward in another life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more of like, in our religion there is a promise that if you are single and have never have a relationship with the opposite gender, that in heaven you will meet someone.
Oh, so you don't need to have a ghost wedding then, right?
Mhm.
But I mean, I understand that people beliefs are different, and they believe that if you are single when you die, then you have to have a ghost wedding. But I hate that some people take advantage of the
Yeah,
situation.
they make it as a business, an opportunity for them.
And the fact that murders are happening because of this is wild to me.
Like, we cannot say anything about tradition, culture, because like it has been going on for years and years, and like for respectful purpose, we cannot say anything. But the problem is those people who takes advantage.
But the government of China did ban this. They banned the practice of ghost weddings, they banned selling corpses, so they know that it is a problem, you know?
But as far as I know, in ancient China too, if royalty died, we could say like the queen or the king died, the servants and the concubine of the king will also be buried alive,
Yeah.
to accompany the king or the monarch.
I think it is like one of a form of ghost weddings, because it's from 3,000 years ago, right? So it is a form of ghost weddings.
It's kind of really normal,
But now I feel like it's not normal anymore.
yeah.
So that's it for the story of ghost weddings, ghost brides, and all the cases that I could find on the internet. Now, if you're someone who loves creepy stories based on legends, just tune in for episodes on all podcasting platforms every Friday with me as your host, and every Tuesday with Diski. That's all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.